I cannot understate how good this hero is. This is by far the best hero of this week. Definitely, 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 definitely go for them. Hey guys, it's the weekend of the first week of the anniversary, and we have some crazy, crazy banners, which I've talked about in the past a lot, and they're finally here. So I figured I would give my thoughts, give some stuff on the upcoming banners, and some perspectives that are going to be unique because I do have some different opinions on some of these heroes, and different kind of opinions on who you should summon. So definitely stay tuned for that. But let's get into it. So, to start off, I think I should probably talk about the Ancient Summoning Banner, because the Ancient Summoning Banner is the most eventful one, and the most interesting one. So this Ancient Summoning Banner is alongside having Valderon, and also Ymmerit, and this banner is deceptively bad, is my opinion. I don't think this banner is as good as people are saying that it is. I think it is good. I do not think it is excellent. I think it is overrated a little bit. And that's not just because I don't think Valderon is as good as Praetus. Because obviously Valderon is not as good as Praetus. That's just a fact. That is indisputable. That is just the reality. But there are some other reasons that make this really bad. So to start off, we have Valderon, and Valderon is a very interesting unit where he is a lord for Chaotix, which is good already because Chaotix are very strong. He has some very good utility for a lot of ground content. He's unkillable, has very high burst. He can ult with like double the strength if you save up to ults. You know, he has extra range. The reason why Valderon kind of falls flat for me is because he can't hit air. He is a little weak on some content. Like, you're not going to use him above a lot of other units for, like, Codex, or for Guild v Guild, or for Guild Boss 2. He's just not in your high kind of priority for those types of content, so that's why I don't value him as much as something like Praetus, but he's still a very, very good unit. And then we got Ymmerit, which is probably the most polarizing character, because a lot of people want him. A lot of people, like, really, really want him. He hits air, I'm pretty sure. He can have extra range, like Solitaire type range. You know, his abilities are all very good. Really good synergy with Anora. The issue with Ymmerit is the fact that he's an unnamed unit. And it's kind of the main reason why this banner is not as good as people think. So, like, let's just think about it a little bit here. We have Valderon banner, and then we have Praetus banner next week or the week after. If you pull on this one and you get something good, they will both most likely reset pity. I don't know with 100% certainty if Ymmerit will reset pity, but Ajax resets pity. So, for everything we know, Ymmerit will also reset pity. So if you pull on this banner aiming for Valderon, you have less of a chance to get him because there's another lord in the pool. If you're going for Ymmerit, you could get the other lord. And it just like makes it slightly worse, in my opinion, because you essentially functionally are getting less rates for these things. And also the fact that Praetus is around the corner, which I've said a lot, is why that banner is not as good.
I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. I am better!
If we look at Praetus, Praetus is absurdly good, insane true damage, insane faction potential, insane just stacking. He has built-in Soulbound Arcana. His awakenings are godlike. Like, if you don't have any chaotic lord, I would still go for Valderon if you have Praetus already. But even if you have Praetus, you kind of want to pull in the Praetus banner. So it's just like, there's a lot of things happening. And then also, you could even say that since the Watcher Lord might be better than Praetus, and she's coming out in like probably ETA like 6 months from now, I will have a video going over it tomorrow. That's when I'm going to release that video. Like, there's a lot of things coming, and it just like, it makes this banner feel a lot less good than if it dropped at the same time Yovar Banner did. You know, if this dropped at the same time Yovar Banner did, and Yovar Banner was later on, then this would be a much better banner than it is now. It's just like, I feel like if you're not going for Anora, which I will get to in a second, Ymrit kind of is not that essential, although he is very cool, very good. Overall, the banner is very good. It's just everything around it is better. So therefore, it falls a little more because of that. But if you really want Valderon, you really want Ymrit, you already have Praetus, go for this one, sure. But if you don't have Praetus, skip it 100%. Like, unless you don't really care about my perspective here, which is completely fine, you do not have to in any way, shape, or form, then you can just, pull on it. But my perspective is Praetus is better for everything, and you should just go for Praetus. That's what I'm doing, personally. Next, we go to the Argent Summoning, which is the Anora Limited Banner. So after you pull 250 summons, you're guaranteed to get Anora, and she's alongside Idril, which does not matter because everyone has Idril. Well, let's talk about Anora really quickly here. So Anora has a couple flaws and a couple benefits, but the flaws seem to be a lot more glaring than her benefits. She has an inability to be... Here we go. She has an inability to get buffs or debuffs. The debuff thing is most likely going to become more relevant as time goes on, like for her event stage. So that will most likely get more important. But the immune to most buffs currently in the state of the game is probably the worst thing you could bake into a kit ever. And it makes her far worse. She cannot be rage regen. She cannot get damage buffs of any kind. It's really bad. Currently, the way the meta works out, for every single late game content, you need rage regen and you need inspiration. As you can see here in Guild Boss 2, the most recent content, every single team will have constants, every single team will have Dolores if they're not using constants, and every single team will have Eloin or something along those lines. There are some with Tsutomu, but Tsutomu himself gives damage increase. So therefore, if you're getting Anora, most of the content in the game is automatically going to be against you. Like a guild boss 1 and 2, you need damage increase and rage regen. For your dungeon 2 and 1, you need damage increase and rage regen at the very least. For every gear aid, you need damage increase and rage regen. It's such a large trend towards it being so important that unless they completely shake up the meta, they shake up the game as a whole, they nerf these heroes, Anora will not be very good unless there's a stage where you need and it's necessary to have immune to debuffs, which will not happen because then it'll invalidate everyone but Anora, so that's not something that'll happen. Realistically, with Anora, I will be pulling for her for content, but if you're not going for Ymrit specifically, then I would just skip Anora, honestly. Though there is something else, which is her exclusive artifact. If we go over to the shop, we can go over here and we can look at the Scepter of Impiety. And this is pretty good. It's not that crazy, but essentially what it does is it gives you some more damage, and it also makes it so that when Labor kills an enemy, restores rage. But then it's only 3% chance, and you have to kill 3 enemies. And when are you really going to be able to do that in a lot of content? To the point where I feel like even with the artifact, she's still not worth going for. So personally, I think this is a skip unless you really want her. Because in the future, the reason why Dahlia was worth summoning for, at least in my eyes, was because Dahlia guaranteed will be better in the future. And it's already been proven by the Anora event stage. She is debatably as good as Anora will be for the event stage because of her range. Because her range is actually good and unique and will have viability in the future. The new Watcher Lord, when it comes out, once again, video will be tomorrow, then it's going to be like, she has the same range, but she's also going to be amazing because clearly they're gearing content towards that range. While Anora, she's there for summoners, to buff summoners, essentially. So unless they completely shake up the meta, make summoners a must-have, and then make Anora essentially the glue that holds them together, unless that happens, then Anora will not be good. That's just the reality here. And she's solid, but she's not good currently, and even if that happens, they will have to bring out some insane summoning heroes for this. Because currently, what does she have to buff? Navras, Cyrus, the skeletons don't even do damage. Navras is an epic, that's kind of mid. Kriya, Cade is getting better, but I mean, whatever. Her factions are good. Cultist and Esotericist is amazing. Like, she does have some viability, but it's just she falls so flat compared to a lot of other heroes. Unless you don't have any AoE mages, I would not pull for her personally, but that is just my opinion. And then we get to probably the most underrated banner here, which is the Frostburn, Divine, and also normal summoning banners. It is a 2x by 15x, so the rates are doubled to pull a legendary. And when you pull a legendary, the chances are 15x on all of the rate ups, and it's insane. This is a really, really good banner. Definitely, probably. It's most likely one of the better banners we had, at least for rare summoning, since all the way back on the last 2x by 15x. It is a very, very good banner, and let me just break it down completely for you guys. Number 1, the epics are good. Nisande is solid, but nothing too crazy. Harpoon is garbage, but can be used to fuse Abomination. And then Deimos is he's definitely in the top 3 rarest epics in the game, alongside Iona and Estrid. A lot of people don't have Deimos. The most people I've seen that are missing one epic, they are all missing Deimos. I was missing Deimos out of all of them for a very, very long time. Deimos is very rare. This is the best chance to get him, and I would highly recommend pulling for him if you do not have him. That is just number 1. Number 2 is the worst the worst legendary in the group, but still a very, very good legendary, and that is Ares. Ares has 2 range, automatically makes him more viable. He has a ton of defense reduction. He has a lot of damage with some solid damage there, some vulnerability here, where he does, solid damage, builds up, starts doing more damage. You know how it is. Ton of vulnerability, ton of damage reduction, and also some stun. I think he will find some viability with Ares, especially in Guild Boss 2. I think he has a lot of viability and a lot of just fighter content. He'll be decent in like Conquerors. He'll be decent in anything with fighters. He's not going to be that exceptional, but apparently, I know Jay and Geo made a video on it. You could go check that out. But Ares especially seems very, very solid and very, very good. He has a lot of debuffs and a lot of damage, which is amazing. And he's still the worst legendary in the banner. The next worst legendary, or I guess the middle of the road legendary for this one, is surprisingly not going to be Lucius. It's going to be Boreas. I genuinely think Lucius will be more viable than Boreas, and I'm going to go into why in a second. But Boreas is still very, very good. He's still a top 3 AoE mage in my eyes, maybe 4th now that Dahlia is out, because Dahlia is proving to be very good. But Boreas is really, really good. He's amazing for Gear Raid 1, debatably the best unit for Gear Raid 1, at least out of the DPS, because he has anti-heal and also top 3 damage. So therefore, you know what I mean. It's very close. Maybe he's not the best, but he's definitely in the conversation. And then he's also really good for Arena because of his range on his auto attack right here, because it does a ton of damage, happens every 15 seconds when fully skilled, a lot quicker when his ultimate is triggered, and it has a lot of range, a lot of damage, and also freeze. He has a lot of control, burst damage, anti-healing, as you can see here, and his awakenings are amazing. They might be contender for the best awakening in the game, at least for normal units. His awaken 1 is really good. In his ultimate, instead of 10% chance to freeze on his basic attack, it is instead 50%. Very, very crazy there. He gains extra attack here, which is always good. And then we get 50% more damage on his main damaging ability. It's a 3x3 tile around him, and this does ridiculous damage. This is an amazing awakening. It makes him very close to pre-nerf Boreas. I know it has to be A3, but if you're close to it, this is definitely a good one to get, because it brings him closer to a pre-nerf Boreas, like I said. And then the extra alteration brings him above what pre-nerf Boreas was. Obviously, if you had his A5 before, which no one did, then it would be a lot worse, but still, he's gonna be close to pre-nerf Boreas, which we all know what pre-nerf Boreas was. It's just without the extra range and just less damage overall. But like Boreas is still amazing. Definitely very, very good. He's not good in any new content because it seems like the devs are heavily trying to make him worse. But also another reason to pull for him is he is very, very, very rare. He is tied for Hatset as the rarest normal hero, at least in the normal pool, outside of two lords, Morrigan and Laya, but they are still more common. I mean, more rare, sorry, than every other normal lord in the normal pool, which is kind of crazy. So that is a reason to pull for him. If you want collection, if you don't have a good AoE mage, he's very, very good. But then it brings us to, in my opinion, the best reason to pull on this banner, and that is Lucius. I do not think it is close. I think his viability in new content, especially since he got changed to be better than he was, Lucius is going to be the best person on this banner. The reason why I am pulling on this banner, I will be pulling on Anora for content, and Lucius because he's just so damn good for a specific piece of content. He will be SSSSS in that piece of content. Lucius is a Watcher. Watcher is not a good DPS faction, but like I keep saying, the Watcher Lord is going to make the Watcher faction amazing. That's just how it's going to be. You want Lucius for when she comes out, in case you get her. Lucius, while Watchers are not good, once again, Lucius is good as a standalone unit. So he's a marksman piercing unit, normal marksman range. He has burst damage and buff dispel, which is what makes him so good. I will evaluate or elaborate a bit more in the future. But Lucius, I talked about him to Ivy before. We did a video on her channel, and essentially he's two units in one. He faces the choice between light and dark, which is reflected in his kit, where essentially he does pursuits and basic attacks, but every time he does 2 pursuits, he gets a 10 danger stack, and when it reaches 5 stacks, so every 10 pursuits, which is about 25%, it's like every 40 attacks or something, which is not that many in this game, he's going to trigger Demonic Embrace, where he gets extra damage, reduces attack interval, triggers a pursuit every time, but then he cannot trigger his ultimate. So he essentially becomes a demon there, and then his ultimate is the complete opposite, where he becomes something which is called Exorcism. And this is where a lot of the viability comes in terms of niche usage, and that is because he's the only dispeller in the game, at least that I know of, until the Watcher Lord comes out, because of course she has that too. But we have Sanctified Bolts, where every attack becomes different, with increasing damage by 20%. Or 20 damage, but that's not the part that matters. Instead, it is the first 4 pursuits dispel 1 buff from the target upon hit. So every time you trigger his ult, which is pretty often, because you also get rage, I'll show in a second, and it lasts 20 seconds. Like, it's a cheap ult, you're going to dispel buffs. And the reason why the buff dispel is so important, and I cannot understate it, is because Titanic Ruins is the most important content to work towards right now. It is the hardest content. The only people getting past 120k are massive Uber whales. There's less than 40 people right now, and that's people who have had a lot of practice. Laurel will get there soon, and you know all of this stuff. But unless you have every unit for it, you have either Sulcanins, even then it's super hard. You have Carnelian, you have Praetus, you have Yovar. You need those types of units. If you don't have those, you can't do it. But Lucius is going to help, because there are 3 phases on the boss. We have the Saw phase, which is manageable with Unyielding, manageable with stuns, manageable with a lot of things. Second phase is the hard one, and then third phase you just need Elowen and Carnelian, or Elowen and Sadie, and then you can completely bypass it. Ideally Pharisee too. The second phase is by far the hardest. The reason why you don't see any higher scores here is because that is when you lose out on all of your damage, and you lose. That's just how it goes. Because the second phase builds up shields, which are buffs, and they build them up over and over, so eventually the boss will have like 5, and every shield you get, or the boss gets more damage output, and ends up killing all your units, or the boss makes it harder to live, and does both of those. So therefore, he's doing more damage, he's living longer, and that's the main roadblock. The second you're able to kill that type of phase, you're able to push so much further. And then it becomes the next roadblock. And the next roadblock is the same phase every single time. And what Lucius does with the buff dispel is he invalidates that entire phase. He just gets rid of all the shields, makes it completely easy, and then you steamroll it, and then you get a much higher score because you just got to worry about the other ones. So Lucius is 1 slot out of 10, but he invalidates the hardest phase by far. You could bring like Nazim, you could bring Lucius, you could bring, you know, your normal cleansers or whatever, and then you'll be able to beat it, essentially, or at least get very close. Lucius is going to be amazing. I cannot understate that. He also gains extra range when he is attacking elite or bosses with his basic attacks, and then also pursuits, so he's making it more likely to do more damage and also more likely to be able to dispel. Generally, I feel like you want to make it so that you're getting a demonic embrace instead of the exorcism for damage, but when you're on the dispelling type thing, you're going to want to have the ultimate up. So he's very good. He does a lot of damage, decent awakenings for here. Pursuit damage increase is really good because a lot of his damage will be from pursuits. And then he gets stun and damage reduction. I cannot understate how good this is for Guild Boss 2. Like, this is an insane awakening because you need stun. You need stun. And you're essentially getting so many pursuits. You're stunning every time. This makes it viable for the first phase, which is amazing. So even if you don't have Carnelian or Sadie, or you don't have those kind of survivability strats for the first phase, he's going to help a ton. He gets damage reduction. He's one of like 5 heroes or 4 heroes in the game that have damage reduction. That's more Guild Boss 2 viability. Awaken 5 makes it so that more damage increase. Like, he's the best Guild Boss 2 unit. Not the best, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but he is the most geared towards Guild Boss 2 unit, and Guild Boss 2, like I said, is the most important content to work towards right now. Lucius will be the best unit out of all of these units, in my opinion, to pull for, because sure, Valderon and Ymir are probably better, but they're also ancient exclusives, and we're going to get Praetus banner soon, so I don't recommend it. He's the best here, and he's better than Anora. Lucius is the highlight of this whole thing. If you want to push Guild Boss 2, which you should want to push, because the rewards are insane. There's serious potential that they nerf the rewards, because you can get like 10 ancients a week, sorry, just from doing Guild Boss 2. If you get like 80k plus or something on difficulty 2, and Lucius will help you get there. So it's insane, and he's the crowning, achievement. Sorry, that makes no sense. He is the thing to work towards. He is amazing. And that is my verdict. Pull on this one for Lucius. If you want Anora, go for Anora. If you want these two, go for them if you want, but definitely not advised by me, because you should be going for Praetus. So yeah, that is everything I think I wanted to talk about. Definitely follow your heart here. Definitely comment down below what you're going to be going for, because I find it really interesting. I will also be doing viewer summons for both of these banners. I don't know if I'll be doing Valderon banner. If anyone wants me to, definitely tell me, and I will start doing those. But on Friday, 7 a.m. EST, then I will be doing viewer summons. It'll probably go for like 3 hours or so, maybe 2 hours, depending on how many people sign up. I will link the form in the description and the comments. And yeah, so very, very excited for that. Thank you guys for watching. Destined signing out.